Okay, the New York Jets are coming off a very impressive comeback victory against the Cleveland Browns. Now they're back at MetLife Stadium, and we're getting the Cincinnati Bengals, the AFC champions from last year, in our house. Good news, bad news. Good news is we beat these guys before with a much lesser team. Bad news is they're 0-2, and I think they're very, very desperate and hungry for a win. Are we going to go ahead and keep their losing streak alive? We're going to talk about it. Let's go.
I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance. You know that I got the mother sauce. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you ever lost? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance man. I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the Renaissance. You know that I got the mother sauce. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you ever lost? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a Renaissance man.
Congratulations, brother.
And here we Okay, so the New York Jets face off tomorrow against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is my late, of course, video going out to share with you guys my projections and predictions for the game. Been under the weather a little bit, you know what I'm saying? My son's been getting sick as the change of weather is happening out here in Texas. I'm tired and I find myself trying to rest up a little bit, but I definitely want to get this video out before game time tomorrow. So, the New York Jets, as we all know, just beat the Cleveland Browns last year, who currently right now have a top two, I'm sorry, number one rushing offense in the NFL. What we did get from last week's win against the Cleveland Browns is that the Jets are still struggling with the screen pass and they're still struggling with stopping the run. Now, week one, we saw a very different Jets defense that was able to contain Lamar Jackson and hold a power running team to minimal yardage, right? Very, very shocking, very, very proud attempt. We wound up losing the game because of a couple of hiccups in the secondary, i.e., our safeties blew it. Uh, but nonetheless, we got a win last week against Cleveland. So with the Bengals coming into town, we have a couple of questions that we need to answer. One, we have the 30th ranked defense in the NFL, and I believe 30th or 31st ranked in terms of sacks. We got 2 sacks on the year right now, and we have the number two most expensive defensive line in the NFL. Kind of frustrating when you think about it because we thought as Jets fans that this defensive front was going to be our bread and butter. They're going to be the heart and soul of this entire team that was going to keep us in the games, make us relevant, and we haven't quite seen that through 2 games. Again, small sample size, but it's still concerning. Okay, I digress. Tomorrow's matchup allows these New York Jets, this defensive line, to go up against the 32nd ranked offensive line. They've given up 13 sacks on Joe Burrow in 2 games. That's saying a lot. That's saying a lot. So, is it the offensive line that's the issue, or is there more to the story? Okay. While looking at the tape and of course peeling back the onion, I've gone back and I've watched the last two Cincinnati Bengals game, and it's evident that obviously Joe Burrow right now is in a fritz. I think his first game against the Steelers, TJ Watt, you know what I'm saying, ate at will. Those guys were able to get to the backfield, create havoc. It threw him into a flux. And I don't think he recovered from that going into week two because it's not just purely on the offensive line, which, believe it or not, or their average pressure rate that they're allowing is right on par of average. In fact, I think it's matching closely to what Patrick Mahomes is receiving right now in terms of pressure rate, and they're 2-0. So why are the Bengals 0-2 when they were just in the Super Bowl last year? Well, it looks like Joe Burrow right now is holding on to the ball a little bit longer than he did last year. And as such, he's also creating difficult matchups for his offensive line and getting those sacks, right? So week one, they went up against the Steelers with a healthy TJ Watt before his injury. Week two, they went off against the Cowboys defensive line with Michael Parsons feasting in the backfield. And I think those disruptive players allowed them to create havoc in Joe Burrow's mindset, hold on to the ball longer than necessary, in essence, not being able to get the ball out on time. So tomorrow's game plan should be eerily similar. The Bengals have spent $70 million on their offensive line in the hopes that it will be a much improved product to protect Joe Burrow in the backfield. and it just hasn't you just haven't seen it relegate to actual performance. It's been one of those things where Joe Burrow right now holding on to the ball as much as he has caused a lot of, I guess, stress on his offensive line. Our defensive line needs to show up tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a test. The number 30th ranked defensive line versus the number 32 ranked offensive line. Can these guys create pressure, get to Joe Burrow, disrupt the play calling, and allow themselves an opportunity to win this game? So on the defensive side, I expect our defensive line to feast. I do believe asking any of our DBs to contain Jamar Chase for an entire game is a long shot. But Bryce Hall did it last year and contained Jamar Chase to just 35 yards. So coming into this year, I think we kind of have a blueprint as to what it would take to go ahead and slow down a Jamar Chase. At least one of the few teams last year that was successful in doing so. But we're doing it with more improved talent in a Sauce Gardner, in a DJ Reed. I don't know if the Jets are going to go ahead and change the game plan to go ahead and maybe pursue a man-to-man option, man-to-man coverage potentially to go ahead and kind of like disturb and disrupt what the offense knows we're going to do. We'll find out tomorrow. But nonetheless, I think with the current matchup, I'm not going to say we're even because Jamar Chase is an elite talent. But if our defensive line can get to Joe Burrow, it pretty much makes Jamar Chase irrelevant. Joe Mixon, being a very, very good running back, we haven't really seen him utilized much. And that's great for us. Hopefully that trend continues tomorrow. If they decide to start utilizing Joe Mixon in the screen game, feeding him the ball, I don't know if our team is capable or up to the task of stopping the rush. And that is concerning. On the offensive side of the ball, we saw Joe Flacco elevate Garrett Wilson, or was it Garrett Wilson that elevated Joe Flacco? I guess we won't know until we see the game tomorrow. In that game, we saw the ability of our wide receivers, Elijah Moore and of course Garrett Wilson, to get open at will whenever they wanted to. They couldn't be stopped. The defense, again, a very, very impressive secondary as well, could not contain those guys. They didn't have answers for those guys. So I think a lot of people are going to expect us to go ahead and beat this game running and gunning, ground and pound. But in all actuality, Joe Flacco right now is the third leading passer in the NFL. We have two wide receiver weapons that appear to be unguardable. Tyler Conklin, I still believe, is a huge part of this team's ability to win. We've seen him drop the ball a couple of times. However, in terms of his current rate, at his current progression right now, he's on track for 90 receptions and I think 8 touchdowns if he keeps this up, right? The fumbles need to go away, and I don't believe that's going to be an issue because it's not been an issue for him throughout his career. We get Tyler Conklin involved, we get those wide receivers involved, we can then run the ball down their throats, utilizing Brees Hall and of course, Brees Hall and of course Michael Carter. The game plan I think is right in front of us. We're going right now to potentially, for the first time in a long time, go 2 wins in a row in September against a team that was deemed a playoff caliber team, even a Super Bowl favorite early in the season. If the Jets get this win tomorrow, it's a statement win. It really puts us on the ability to stand tall and impact the noise. Change of narrative. We've been hearing about this, right? Coach Sala wants people to eat receipts. A win like this tomorrow starts force feeding those individuals those receipts. Get the salt, get the pepper, get the hot sauce, whatever you need. A win tomorrow is a statement win that backs Coach Salah's freaking statement of he's holding the receipts because at the end of the day, even with the success of what we saw against the Cleveland Browns last week, the Jets are still not getting enough respect. Yes, we've climbed up in the power rankings. I think like 22. But the consensus around the media outlets is that the Jets freaking had a miracle win. We were lucky. The Cleveland Browns lost that game. Granted, at the end of the day, the Jets did exactly what any good football team is supposed to do: take advantage of the opportunities presented to them by the opponent. The Cleveland Browns did definitely give us some opportunities. Taking advantage of those opportunities is the mark of a good football team. So, with that said, tomorrow's game, I believe, is a Jets win. If the Jets can come out on top in 2 out of the 3 facets of football, whether it's offense and special team, I believe we have the ability to not only win this game, but win it convincingly. Call me a homer, call me an optimistic Jets fan. But I do believe that the Jets tomorrow coming out have the potential to win this game 31-21. And I say that confidently because I believe the defensive line tomorrow is going to show up. I believe tomorrow we're going to see 4 sacks, potentially 1 interception from Joe Burrow. That's going to change and impact the game. I believe Elijah Moore is going to go ahead and show up tomorrow as well. and feast. He's shown the ability to get open in the first two games. He hasn't gotten the ball much. What happened when they went back and watched the tape on Garrett Wilson after week one? They force fed him the ball in week two. I think it's Elijah Moore's time to shine. Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson are literally potentially two wide receiver ones on the same roster. We haven't had this problem in a very, very long time. With that said, I also believe the impact players of the game are going to be Brees Hall or Michael Carter. This could be the game we see Brees Hall get that 70, 80-yard touchdown run. To see him put it all together in terms of his speed, his explosiveness, and understand that he needs to go ahead and take it to the next gear when playing NFL players. This game is very winnable tomorrow. The difference is this. The Bengals are coming in right now. They are desperate. They're shook. They're supposed to be a playoff caliber team. They're 0-2. If they fall to 0-3, their season is in jeopardy. The Jets have the potential to be 2-1 without their starting quarterback in Zach Wilson, with the potential to go to 3-1, if not 2-2, with next week's matchup against the Steelers. Imagine Zach Wilson coming back to a team ahead of the game in the hunt, potentially. Again, it's early in the season, but we're in the conversation for the potentially making the playoffs. And he continues his progression from what we saw in the back end of last year. It's a good time to be a Jets fan. So, with that said, I again state tomorrow's victory, New York Jets versus the Bengals. It's going to be 31-21. Jets win it. And we're starting a winning streak that may be one for the ages. But the Jets definitely have the opportunity to start changing the narrative and changing the story of the Jets with a win tomorrow. I hope you guys brought salt and pepper for those of you who doubt it. I hope you've got some freaking hot sauce. I'm a big fan of hot sauce because you're going to need it to eat those receipts. Let's go. Till next time.
Congratulations, brother.